Hey, everybody, welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays. I'm your girl, Coach Crystal. If you're just joining us and this is your first time with us on one of these special Wednesdays, then welcome. This is a candid conversation that sometimes we invite guests and sometimes you have me. Tonight, you got me, and we're going to talk about Wisdom Wednesdays and how we got to wisdom. But again, if you're just joining us or you're a member of our community, let's start the way we always do. A lot of things happened before this, and I guarantee a lot of things are going to happen after this. But I promise to be here with you now. Please be here with me now. Tonight, we're going to talk about Wisdom Wednesdays because I just want to give y'all a little bit of backstory about how we see wisdom and why this specific topic came to be. Now, here's the thing. I'm a professor by trade. I think some of you know that. I've been in education for a long time. I've also been an artist for many years. And I know that experience breeds transformation. And one of the core principles of our community at Steps and Stages is that we collaborate on each other's transformation. I'm not the coach that tells you what to do and how to do it. I'm the coach that asks you what would you love and helps you get there. Now, tonight, I want to break this down for you because when we think about wisdom, I want you to think about how you've been taught about wisdom. We might think that gray hair equals wisdom. We might think that only spiritual people have wisdom. And just to be clear, we're all spiritual people. Y'all have a spirit, right? But thinking about who we think gets to be wise and who doesn't, right? So I grew up in a household where I think I've been this same person for a long time, but because this type of thought was coming out of a small body, it was misinterpreted as disrespectful, interrupting, and talking about things I didn't need to be in grown folks' business talking about, right? And all of those things kind of meshed into, well, me second guessing my intuition. But I want to tell you about Wisdom Wednesdays and how we started so that we can dive deeper into how these candid conversations about experience, life, and going forward can build your mechanism for wisdom, for courage to pursue your vision, and the courage and commitment to take the next step. Now, let's look at wisdom. Okay. Wisdom has about three kind of definitions in the dictionary. And the professor and me just can't help it. We just got to be clear about all of them. Okay. So, number one, I want to say wisdom is not permission, it's not consent, and it's not authorization, right? Developing wisdom is the real work of our life of transformation. We are all put here to transform and evolve into the capacity of who we are, the capacity of our identity. Not just be successful at the skills and the things that we study in school, but to be the fullest versions of ourselves. Now, wisdom is defined as strength and courage. Wisdom by definition is defined as the body of knowledge and the principles that develop within a specified society or period, right? So we may think of spiritual wisdom. We may think of wisdom in terms of academic intelligence. We may think of wisdom as passed down in terms of culture. We may think of wisdom in different ways. Another definition is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment, the quality of being wise. Now, let's just look at this. Having experience, having knowledge, and having good judgment. We can have experience, but that experience, depending on how we interpreted it, may not lead to knowledge. We can have knowledge, but if we don't have the experience, then we're just spouting information that we don't know to be true. And the thing about judgment is whether we're judging something as good or bad, we're still putting ourselves in a position to make something less than, right? So we want to be thinking about how we really think about wisdom. Now, of course, I saved the best one for last. This is my favorite. The, the soundness, now we're just going to compare this here. The soundness of an action or decision with regard to the application of experience, knowledge, and good judgment. But the soundness is important in this one, right? The soundness, the soundness of the action of decision, right? Y'all, so if you've been with us over Wednesdays, you know that decision really means to cut something away. When you decide, you say, I'm going this way, and then I'm going to let that subside. I'm going to decide. And the soundness of that action, the soundness of that decision, and the soundness meaning the more you believe in it, the more committed you are to it, that is actually going to be the jump start for your transformation. So when we talk about wisdom, wisdom comes from experience. Experience gives us knowledge. Knowledge pushes us into action. Actions give us a result. And then we have to decide what we know from what just happened. That's how we gain wisdom. Now, the thing that keeps a lot of people from gaining wisdom or becoming wise is that they don't understand that failure is feedback. Sometimes we take an experience and it doesn't give us the result that we would love. We take that as a failure. We take it when we try something and someone else says that it wasn't successful, then we take that as a failure. We actually don't take time to look at the process of what we just did and get feedback on which part of the process may have had a breakdown. When we look at the process and find out where the gaps are or the breakdowns in our communication with other people or the thing that we're trying to actually manifest, where did we drop the ball? Where's the small glitch in the matrix that just didn't allow us to get there? Where's the fumble on our part? Then we can say, oh, we didn't fail, we just missed a step. Or we didn't fail, we just didn't refine the process. Or we didn't fail, we actually never defined success at the beginning, so everything we did felt like it was empty, right? So when we think about true wisdom, wisdom teaches us by experience. The experiences build knowledge. The knowledge becomes the foundation by which we go forward and make better choices in terms of our decision making, or the information we gather can also hold us back in fear and failure, and most of the time, shame. But we're not here to dwell in shame. This is a no shame community. We're not here to say, oh, you tried something, you failed, you should be ashamed of yourself. No, we're saying when you try, you get the experience and the data, and let's turn that data into wisdom for the next decision and the next step that we need to take in our own growth and development. Sometimes we have to surrender to the feelings that we have about failure and about shame, because a lot of times they keep us stuck in a pattern of trying to figure it out. I can't tell you how many people I talk to on a daily basis who are like, I just got to figure it out. I got to get myself together. I'm about to pull it together. And I just think to myself, what about you is not together? You're together enough to be on this phone, to know enough about yourself, to have enough awareness to know that there's something else you might need to know and practice to get to the next level of your life. So let's acknowledge first the parts of you that are together, the things that you have done correctly or the things that you've done with full capacity to get you to this moment. And then let's build a bridge between who you are right now and the next stage of growth you want to be in. So it's not about pulling it all together or figuring it out. It's about acknowledging that wisdom comes from the experience of the life you've been living, and that you have a choice to look at that experience, to look back at that data and make a better choice for the future. When we think about wisdom, we got to think about experience, and we all have them. So if we all have experiences, then we all have the capacity to be wise. We call this particular platform Wisdom Wednesdays because Wednesday's the middle of the week, I'm sorry. Wednesday's the middle of the week. And so we got a couple days to look back on and see what we've been doing. And we got a few days to look forward to see what we would love to do, right? And so we put this smack dab in the middle of the week so we have time for that reflection and for that visioning. Wisdom requires both reflection and visioning. Listen, if you're just joining us, I'm Coach Crystal. This is Wisdom Wednesdays. At any point on any platform you're on, feel free to post your questions. Tonight, we're doing a little bit of an excavation on wisdom as a mechanism to look back on experience, to understand our own positioning and pathway in gaining that experience and wisdom. And what I really mean by that is, how many times have you jumped to the conclusion that something is not right when you haven't finished yet? How many times have you started to say why something went wrong, but you left out a few steps? How many times have you actually taken the time to track your takeaways, to say, at the beginning of this journey, my vision was to do this. At this point in the journey, I have done this, this, and this. So far, I have the understanding that I need to do more of this in order to get there. And I know that I need to believe more, commit more, and collect more data on how I'm doing rather than how to get it done. Right. And that's really where the real wisdom comes in, because that requires a level of self awareness that many of us have. Actually, I'm not going to say don't have. Many of us just don't give ourselves time to pay attention to. When we get focused on something that we want to attract, manifest, maintain, execute, we sometimes put our blinders on and go full force in the direction of that vision or dream. But in the midst of that trajectory, in the midst of that pathway, in the midst of going full steam ahead, we have to pause and check in. We have to check in to see how we're doing in the midst of the doing. We have to figure out through wisdom, is this the place where I usually get frustrated and burn out? Is this the place where I know I need help, but I haven't asked for it yet? Is this the place where I know I need to ask a better question, but I actually haven't given myself time and space to listen in and figure out what I don't know that I don't know yet? Sometimes the shame of not knowing keeps us from formulating a better question. And that again is the opposite of wisdom. Wisdom allows us to surrender. Wisdom allows us to be humble enough to say, I don't know, I need help, and I need an outside eye here to connect the dots for me, because I want to make sure that I'm taking the most effectual pathway. Wisdom is not an assumption. It is not permission to be well. You are already well. Wisdom does not depend on age. It depends on awareness, reflection, clarity, confidence, and commitment to moving forward in your vision. Now, many of you might be saying, well, what if we don't know what the vision is? Again, that is the permission to be still and listen. That is the permission to say to yourself, I don't know what I want to do. I know that I've gotten this far by saying yes to the path that was in front of me. But I know that the pathway behind me has given me skills, talents, perseverance to be able to do the thing I would love. So let me collect all the things I've been doing. Let me collect the perseverance it takes to go through college, grad school. Let me take the intuition it took for me to start my own business. Let me take the entrepreneurial way that I see the world. Let me take the ways that I know that I've been a great friend, a great mother. Let me take all of those things, put them in front of me, and then put the pieces together that lead to the actionable way that I want to show up in the world. Not just what I want to get done, not just what I want the people on the outside to see, because wisdom is an inner transformation. Wisdom is the inner transformation that tells you everything you've been doing still counts and there's more to do. And the more to do gives you the practice of using the experience you've had to make decisions for the future. Listen, if you're just joining us, I'm Coach Crystal. Welcome to the Steps and Stages community. This is our weekly live stream called Wisdom Wednesdays. And tonight, I'm just giving you a little behind the scenes of how we see wisdom in our community and how this became the platform for Wisdom Wednesdays. Wisdom Wednesdays began because I know that I don't know it all. Never claim to. I never tell my clients, listen, I'm the only voice in the world. But I do say, listen to one voice at a time so that you can be clear about what you're gaining and what you need next. Here's what's been happening on the Wisdom Wednesday live stream. I've been bringing in people who inspire me, people who have taught me something, not just about the pathway that I'm cultivating or walking on now, but about excavating my gifts. A lot of the people that you see on Wisdom Wednesdays are people who have become a part of my life and my livelihood because they were able to hold up a mirror to what I was doing and show me the wisdom in what was happening. Sometimes when you have a gift, you can't see it. Sometimes we're just blind to everything about us, which is where that development of self-awareness comes in and develops wisdom so that you can commit to the courageous act of fulfilling your full capacity. Your full capacity, not the capacity of the situation you're in, not rising to the occasion of what's being asked, but rising to the capacity of what you were born to do and be. Wisdom is just that. So I brought these up earlier, but I'm going to bring them back just in case people missed it. When we're talking about wisdom, we're talking about developing wisdom as the real work of assessing our past to build a bridge to a dynamic future. Wisdom strengthens our courage and our commitment to follow the vision, because wisdom tells us that we have an intuitive experience, whether we went through it or not. We have the life experience and the actions and decisions we've taken to use as data to make the next conscious step. We know that everything we've been through counts, it all counts, and that the body of knowledge and the principles that develop within a society or a period of time can be the beginning of how we know wisdom for ourselves. By practicing the cultural wisdom or the philosophical wisdom, spiritual wisdom of the families we're born into and the people around us, we actually start to understand where we connect and where we separate from our truest and highest good, from our truest identity. And then we start to develop a quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment that is the beginning of being wise. We're testing things out. We're having our experiences. We're assessing what we gain from those experiences that now we know, which turns into knowledge, the foundation of knowing. And then we use our good judgment to make the next core decisions. But those decisions have to be sound. And that's where sometimes we get a little bit stuck on, how do I know it's right or wrong? How do I know it's good or bad? How do I know I'm making a sound decision for my future? The soundness of an action is determined by its alignment to your vision. If I'm making a sound core decision based on the experiences I've had that will propel me into the vision of my life that's really born in here, then I know that the alignment of my choice is going to build a stronger bridge to my future. And that is how we operate in the strength of wisdom. We operate in the strength of wisdom by knowing that our courage and commitment is building the bridge to a better, freer, fuller future, freer, fuller version of us, not just the same old thing we've been. I read something today right before I was about to jump on with y'all, and it said, you can't get to the part of you that's growing when you're staying in your comfort zone. And it's true. You can't get to your dream and be comfortable at the same time. And that comfortable doesn't mean agitation, pain, and suffering. It just means growth. Everyone here is probably, over the age of puberty. And so you remember when people were talking about growing pains. There is a way that as we're growing physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, there is a stretching that happens. There's a capacity building that happens. We get bigger. And so as we get bigger, things have to stretch to accommodate our growth. As we stretch to accommodate our growth, the salve for those growing pains is the wisdom of knowing we are being made over. We are being transformed. We are going to be something different. We are going from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And watch out when we get to ability to actually fly. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about how wisdom has been showing up in your own life and how you've been transforming all this time. And now you might say, well, Crystal, I don't want to think about those hard times. I mean, it gets hard every time I have to grow and change. And yeah, but maybe that's because you didn't choose it. Some of us get forced to change by circumstances, situations, and conditions. And we get forced to change because we haven't decided on the vision in front of us. We haven't taken the time to be quiet, to be still, and to use our imagination to do the work of seeing ourselves higher, of seeing ourselves in our fullest capacity. So we then sometimes have to be forced into the change just to get to the next stage of our own development. I don't want you to be forced. I want you to choose. I think one of the most powerful places that we have in this life is at the crossroads of choice, at the crossroads of where I've been and where I'm going. I want you to be able to choose, and I want you to choose for your vision. I want you to understand transformation as a dynamic act. I want you to understand change as the methodology for growth. And I want you to take the next step in the direction of your own dream, vision, and growth. Listen, in this community, of course, we like to hold each other accountable, but we see accountability as collaboration towards the highest good that we can all learn from, so that my wisdom becomes your wisdom and your wisdom becomes my wisdom. So maybe I don't have to fall down as many times if you've already told me how to prevent that. And that's just how it rolls, right? The longer we live, the more we understand that it doesn't have to be our experience to be true, but we do have to be able to validate the experience in our own wisdom for us to commit to taking action. Tonight on Wisdom Wednesdays, I hope something about the definition of wisdom and the resonance of the pathway to wisdom has really shown up for you in a choice or choices that you know you've made or that you're about to make. Believe more in the process of becoming than the thing or the person you've been. All of that content is merely here to give you data to make better, more sound choices for the life you want to create by design and not by default. Don't fall into the trap of a little bit of fear. Don't fall into the trap of shame because you don't know the answer. Fall into the process of gaining experience, gaining knowledge, and becoming so soundly integrated with your vision, in alignment with your intuition, that the choices become intuitive and natural for you, and that a little bit of risk will never deter you from the real work of becoming wise. Listen, it's Wisdom Wednesdays. I'm happy to take questions, but I also just want to say before we sign off tonight that if you're ready to make a serious commitment to the transformation in your life, then you should jump over to stepwithcrystal.com or email us directly at info@lifestepsandstages to schedule your complimentary vision call, where maybe you just need a friend to help you stretch. Maybe you just need someone to ask you some better questions, or maybe it could be your moment of surrender. Our guiding quote this year is, "You are only as strong as your readiness to surrender." And if you've been doing something and not getting the result you would love, maybe it's time to surrender to a new process of development and growth. Our Vision Builder cohort started on Monday. We have a couple slots. We might let some more people in. If you're really ready to make that commitment, jump over to stepwithcrystal.com. You may be the next Vision Builder. And if you're just wondering what's happening inside those groups, what's happening inside the Steps and Stages community, jump over to the YouTube channel or click below this video and find one of the client chats and just listen to the real stories of transformation from people all over the world who are not only choosing to take the next step, but have chosen to assess their experience and become wise in their own mind, in their own vision, and in their own pathway. I'm Coach Crystal. It's been a pleasure to be with y'all tonight. Here's what I want you to do. Join us next Wednesday. But before then, bring back some data about how you made some wise choices that were in alignment with your vision this week. Keep the vision clear. And if you haven't been able to develop that vision yet, make sure you reach out to someone on our team, stepwithcrystal.com. Make sure you join the Life Steps and Stages Facebook page, or just make sure to drop a comment on any of these platforms, and we'll make sure to reconnect with you so that you can reconnect with your highest good. The vision-driven life is the only way to live. Have an amazing week, y'all. You still got time to make some wise choices.